Hello and welcome to a brand new show on ET Now. Informed Investing with HSBC Mutual Fund. In partnership with ET Now, over the next couple of days, weeks and months, we would taking the idea of informed, simple and effective investing forward. The word SIP needs no introduction, but how can you really benefit at a time when you have to protect your wealth and your journey of wealth creation from volatility and the biggest bugbear, inflation. So informed investing is about understanding, ideating, debating, deliberating, and perhaps the right messaging which we want to bring out on this forum. And the two guests who would be powering the show on ET Now, Kailash Kulkarni, CEO of HSBC Mutual Fund, and Ankur Thakore, Head of Retail Sales and Distribution with HSBC Mutual Fund. So Ankur, it's your first time. Kailash, we've interacted a lot on this forum, so nice to have you back.
Thank you for having us back.
Let's first understand with the word HSBC. The word HSBC, I've grown up in my school understanding about HSBC. You must have grown up in your school understanding about HSBC. This brand represents trust. This brand represents a promise. So with this show of informed investing, what are we trying to communicate?
Truly speaking, the Indian investor have come a long way over the last few years, but there is a lot of investors who are still, if I have to say, clueless in terms of what they should be doing with the money. This show, in our opinion, should help them guide in the direction of what is the right way of investing. And this program, because it reaches out to a larger audience, will also probably ignite an interest in a set of people who are today not even thinking about investing. So it's both people who are wanting to invest. This will be a good medium for them to get an understanding, and two, for people who are not thinking, would start thinking about investing.
Kailash, now HSBC AMC has gone through twists and turns in last couple of years. First there was COVID, then there was the entire merger which was at play, and now, like we were discussing, that your schemes have really normalized in terms of where they are, the second quartile. 7 out of 10 schemes are part of the second quartile. What are the strategies which you are adopting which are different from what others are doing and which essentially are investor focused?
The beauty about our industry is that if you stick to the basics, you do 8 out of 10 things right. You don't need to do something extremely creative. So I think our focus area is twofold, because like you said, we've undergone a lot of change in the last few years. I think communicating that to the industry at large, that is the partners who sell our products, to the end customer, because there will be people who come in from the company we bought out, and they may not even be aware that now we have become HSBC. And like you said, HSBC stands for trust. I think there are a lot of things about HSBC people don't know. Just to give you one example, if I say which bank launched the first ATM in India, I'm guaranteeing you the answer will not be HSBC. Yeah, but the reason I'm saying this, it's more than 100 years, 150-year-old bank. So I think there's a foundation of trust which is there. It has been experienced by a certain set of investors till now, but now we are broad basing that investor from tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3 and tier 4 towns also. So I think what we are doing is communicating. That's the first thing that we want to do. Second, focusing on fund performance to get a hygiene fund performance. And like I said, 7 out of 10, if it's in the top 2 quartiles, people are generally happy with fund performance. Number 3, and more importantly, enhancing pre-sales and post-sales customer delivery. I think that is very, very critical. Pre-sales, a lot of companies focus on. I think it's the post-sale. And now with technology coming into play, if you are not able to provide customer service at the tips of your finger or rather the buttons which we use on a mobile phone, then I think you will be losing the plot. So I think focusing on doing all these developments is what our next 1 year is really built out to be.
So for HSBC AIMS Mutual Fund, how are the global synergies now adding up?
So it's a very interesting place to be. Firstly, HSBC as a group and HSBC Asset Management globally is extremely focused on Asia, And within Asia, India is a very significant part of that focus. So clearly, you know, there is a whole host of strategies focused towards India. Second, any research which is done globally is available on a single platform within the HSBC system, so that if tomorrow there is some disturbance in Europe or some oil crisis or something else happen, earlier we would maybe find it tougher to reach out to the right person to get the views. Today we have that in-house expertise. So if you want to know what's going to happen on ESG, you know, climate change, there are experts sitting in-house. All we have to do is set up a meeting or just read the research reports which are available within the HS. Similarly, if there are investors outside or our own teams outside who want to know more about India, our analyst reports are put up on the same system, so they can get to read much more. So there's a lot of synergy between the two. The other thing that HSBC is doing is trying to get a lot of global money invested into India. We are trying to get more money coming into India by showcasing the strength of India. We are doing this through what we call India Days in different countries, and we even propose to have certain clients come over where they can get to interact with various corporates and sectors out there. So there's a lot of synergy happening between the big HSBC globally and the India team.
Ankur, there's always this criticism or a debate or perhaps deliberation on which way the industry is moving. Global averages, if anything, if they are to go by, the growth in ETF is far larger than what actively managed mutual funds are doing. In India, it's the other way around. Why is that, and could this change?
So the ETF route has been chosen today, especially in India, through predominantly the institutional customers. The retail customers are still opting to be with active funds, and that we do believe is been on account of the fact the alpha generation does exist in India across broad spectrum. The reason being that the investable universe, if I have to say, from a stock perspective, is fairly large in India. Today, if we were to look at companies which are say 1,000 crores and above as market capitalization, we would have about 750, 800 companies to invest in, which makes or gives an opportunity for the alpha generation from a fund manager perspective, because the index doesn't invest into all those stocks. Second, the core research done today is covering predominantly fewer companies. So there is an information arbitrage, if I have to say, available from an investment team perspective if they were to do the hard work, and which helps them to generate alpha. So generally speaking, because of the alpha generation which is available in India, we do believe, at least for some foreseeable future, in segments of the market we will still see monies flowing to the active part. Passives probably are also a function of access. So today a lot of customers who are first time, if you today have only 3.5 crore, 4 crore unique customers in the country who are kind of exploring to come into the mutual fund industry, may not necessarily be very savvy in terms of cost itself, and hence that doesn't become a determinant for them. So cost surely could be one of the factors for people to consider, but that's happening at a far lesser number of customer segment rather than a broader segment, is how we would see it as.
So what would you say, Ankur, is positioning of HSBC in today's competitive landscape? Some of your peers also have the same promise: experience, convenience, digital adaptability, market beating returns, and also trust. So how would you differentiate yourself? Because these are the selling points of, let's say, a competitor also.
Sure, absolutely right. We believe that at the core, it is, for an asset management company, its investment is always going to be the core. So as long as you are able to deliver a fairly consistent return with risk management, you can over a long period of time deliver good risk adjusted returns, which attracts the customer. The point I'm trying to make is that unless you have your core investment piece right, nothing works. So that becomes your first starting point. Second, as you are fully aware that HSBC is a global organization, and with that we surely get a lot of information which has happened in the past as well, and many markets would have passed through various journeys, and India is also not going to be far away from what many of these countries have experienced. that experience, when shared with, say, our distribution partner, can add a lot of value to our distributors in terms of them being able to be ready for what's likely to happen in future. I think these two key points can really make a big difference. HSBC as a mutual fund in a fairly crowded market of 45, 46 asset management companies.
No, I just wanted to add one thing. Today, okay, because of restrictions, we can't launch global products. But as Indian market develops, there will be a need to have differentiated global products also. And that's where we stand as HSBC. A significant advantage we have, because we have got great global products which we have not been able to get to India. So at some point in time in future, you know, getting the right kind of product which suits the Indian market is also something which will help us when you talked about us versus the competition.
Kailash, you know, there was a time when we would look at, okay, this is what has happened in Western world, the same thing will happen in India. That's been the thesis, and that playbook really is at play. But frankly, India is a very different market, price sensitive market. Geographically, the spread is different, and the rural penetration and the digital adaptation is very unique now. So when you analyze global trends, which HSBC must have analyzed, and you compare them in India, what is the similarity and what is the difference?
So I think one thing HSBC knows and understands is that this is a very key and important market. And to fast forward our success, you know, in terms of time wise, is why the acquisition was made. That was something very, very important. And from here, then to go to the next level becomes that much more easier.
What is the next level for you?
So obviously we are 14th in terms of overall assets under management. We would love to be in the top 10. I mean, that is the next step, so to say, before we take our sights further from here. I am personally a big fan of widening the investor base. So today we have about 22 lakh customers. Can we look at significantly enhancing this customer base, because we are now present in 58 locations, 63 branches, you know, and small towns and cities where we are opening up our own offices branded HSBC Mutual Fund. So, you know, these are small steps, but when you go to the local market and when people see these things, they know that you are here for the real long term. And you talked about, you know, that synergy that is there. I think globally they recognize that India needs to be dealt a little differently. So while your growth strategies may be completely unique, the risk, compliance, governance standards are of the highest order. I think that is what we really bring to the table today.
Ankur, it comes back to the distribution channel. It comes back to the unique advantage which you are enjoying right now because of the global presence. But for an Indian importance, how relevant is that?
So global best practices obviously does help put things in place. As I was mentioning earlier, a lot of countries would have experienced many things, whether it's related to the market or with regards to distribution, would have passed through the evolution. And we would always be able to dip into that IP, if I can say so, to help us out to understand that situation better. But from a distribution perspective, how does it help that a global player comes through? There are two parts. One is that surely being a global brand, we are not operating like a global company. We'll still work like a local company and be with the distribution partners as a local partner, if I have to say. But also the fact that there are many learnings both from a research which is present, at the same time learnings of best practices.
Can you elaborate a learning for us?
So learning in terms of, while the platforms are becoming a reality in India, a lot of these platforms does exist in various parts of the world, and over a period of time what people have realized that there have been more and more compliance come through, or regulatory hurdles which come through, which leads to people wanting or needing to be adapting in a particular way. I think that experience is gradually kind of building into the Indian distribution fraternity. So just to give a sense, if I was to go back 10 years and if we spoke about individual agents which had 1,000 crore plus assets, really didn't exist in India. and most of these were sub 1000, and hence their operating model was very different from what they need to be today when they are beyond 1000 crores. We've experienced that in various other parts of the world and can help them be ready for the next big level. So today 1000 could be a threshold. We talk about 10 years later, 10,000 could be a threshold. And operating level at each of these, you need to have different skill sets, different kind of hiring done within your system. Various other countries have experienced this. We can bring that value add to our distribution partner, and I think that's a very big value add, because not too many people in this country have an organization which has this kind of a breadth. We work across various countries, across developed emerging markets, and across various platforms. So we have a banking, mutual fund, insurance business in various parts of the world, and each of these things can add a lot of value in terms of helping them build the business for the future.
Kailash, if I look at the number of SIP unit holders now, the kitty of 17,000 crore which comes on a monthly basis, it's almost like a dream come true. It was a 3-digit number. Yes. Post-COVID it became a 4-digit number. Now it is a 5-digit number. But do you think now the base effect could kick in?
I think today there's still a large chunk of population which says that I don't buy a mutual fund, but I buy SIP, not really correlating the two. So SIP has become like,
it's the new EMI.
Yes, absolutely. It's become a brand. I believe that the newer investors who are coming in, thanks to the various efforts made at educating, I mean, you do a lot of it in your programs, a lot of other
First
people.
First time Kailash is saying nice things about media.
So I think people coming into this industry are actually coming in starting with a SIP. So the new investors are doing this. So I don't see this train slowing down or stopping because of the base effect which is there. And the other thing is, the older the investor gets in SIP, and he has seen 2 downturns, and he has actually seen, because of that downturn, he's got additional units and that's helped him make more money. I think that is what is really the word of mouth which is getting spread today. So today we are seeing more people wanting to come and say mujhe SIP karna hai, or wanting to come and say I want to do a SIP for my child's education or his long term, whatever, I want to buy a house. So I think these fundamental changes have now become ingrained. The only thing I feel that some channels are still selling the 3-year, 5-year SIPs. I think they need to now change, because the majority of the channels, especially the MFD segment, is selling 15, 20, 25-year or goal-based SIPs which are there. I think everyone needs to move towards goal-based or really long-term, permanent kind of SIPs that we say.
So don't time the market, time your goals.
Absolutely.
So Ankur, let's understand the migration. 2000 to 2005, I would say it was all about explaining SIP. 2010 to 2015 was about using the distribution and digital technology to spread SIP. And 2015 to 2022-23 is all about the SIP journey which has started. How do you see the next 3-5 years moving? Because with each 5-6 years, there is a new layer which gets added to this entire SIP story.
So I do think that there is a huge number of customers who are untapped as yet. So as the momentum for that pickup of those customers is increasing, it adds to the layer automatically. Fortunately, over the last 7 years, we've almost tripled our unique customer base, and over the next 5-7 years, I think the pace of this growth would continue as well, and which automatically would mean that the natural addition of the book will be much higher. The other part which I would like to add on to here is that, one, the awareness, thanks to the digital media, which could be television or YouTube channels or whatever we be using it, has made the younger generation, which actually adapts to that technology much faster, aware that this is one way of investing. And as we get into this whole demographic benefit over the next 5-7 years, where each year we will have at least more than 1 crore working population coming in, some part of those investors will definitely add on to the SIP part. So I think it's going to become a natural way of being Good news is that India is adapting the right things from various parts of the world. While we are digitally fairly savvy now, we have an access to mobiles with every city and every smallest remote town in this country has a mobile phone, but the adaptability towards financial services and adapting as an investment into the markets, it has been more of a patient game, and which clearly seen, because while people are talking about this can end very soon, that markets can turn around and people will start SIPs, but we've seen multiple volatilities during this journey you explained, and people have continued to invest in. I think the large part of SIPs, more than 50%, as a sign up in India is today happening beyond 5 years. I think that's the great news, that we are today building a book which could be for goals or even for passing on for generations. So I think that's the great journey which we will go through, and I hopefully will be part of this journey as part of the mutual fund employee and as part of an investor in this whole piece.
Let's get closing comments from you. A question which I ask everybody: define the difference between risk and volatility.
Can I give a mantra for that?
Yes, please.
A very simple
In your own
thing.
words, yeah.
Yeah. Income minus household expense minus EMIs, because everyone has EMIs today, minus your entertainment expense. And whatever is remaining, yeah, 80% or 90% of that should go as SIP. You know, if you do this diligently, you are taking care of risk and you are taking care of the market volatility.
And you're adding buying power.
Yes, absolutely.
So, you know, before I wrap the show, I'm just going to summarize, and I've been both a practitioner and votary of SIP investing. In last 23 years, whatever could go wrong has gone wrong. We've seen 9/11, 2008 crisis, we've seen COVID, we've seen assassinations, we've seen declines of big governments, we've seen war, we've seen earthquake. But if you just kept the faith going, it's very simple. If you just kept the faith going, you can really walk and prosper from this wonderful financial journey. So the biggest tip when somebody is asking me, I say, don't cancel your SIPs. Is that the biggest tip?
I think you put it spot on. Don't stop your SIP should be a coinage. You know, don't stop your SIP. Keep going.
So the biggest tip is the SIP.
Absolutely.
Any last words?
So the only challenge which I see about SIP is people underestimate the amount they should be investing.
Yeah, so true.
So they should be investing a large amount of money, and if I was to just add to what Kailash was talking about, the mathematics, I would say SIP should be considered as before all the other discretionary spends come through.
Let me tell you, I have gone and met clients who have who are currently having a 10,000 rupee SIP when they can easily have a 50,000 rupee SIP. You know, and these are businessmen.
You know, I'm going to have this word with one very good example which I learned from Morgan Housel, Psychology of Money. All of us have read that book, which is that you have a choice to make. Do you want instant gratification? Do you want delayed gratification? SIP is nothing else but delayed gratification, but when you enjoy it, it's like you are choosing between pizza and biryani. I always like biryani because I always get delayed and a wonderful gratification. So thank you very much for joining us. It's been so nice to have both of you on this show. That's it on this special show on ET Now. Thank you for tuning in. And once again, I will say the biggest tip: don't cancel your SIPs.